Are you tired of doing everything right and still getting deleted in Escape from Tarkov? Maybe you're sprinting into fights you never heard coming, or losing raids because you froze when you should have pushed. Let's fix that. Welcome back to Tarkov University. I'm Ghost, and in this video, I'm breaking down how to win more PvP fights by understanding when to slow down and when to move with a purpose. We'll go through real raids across Lighthouse, Customs, Streets, Reserve, and Shoreline, showing you how sound, positioning, angles, spawn knowledge, and decision making decide fights long before the first shot is fired. I'll walk you through exactly what I'm listening for, how I determine how many players I'm facing, when I choose to ambush versus push, how I clear buildings one slice at a time, and why even the fights I lose are just as valuable as the ones I win. These are not highlight clips. These are teachable moments that you can copy to survive longer, take smarter fights, and extract more consistently, whether you're against a solo or fighting a squad. If this guide helps you, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe for more Tarkov content. Let's get into it. Tip number 1 is to slow down and let the raid talk to you. One of the biggest mistakes I see in PvP is the constant movement, sprinting, strafing, and repositioning, when sometimes the smartest play is to just do nothing at all. This can be especially true if you haven't actually begun engaging your targets yet or received enough intel to know how many players you're dealing with. Escape from Tarkov has an incredibly fast time to kill. If you make one bad sound cue, one unnecessary sprint, or one careless step, the raid can end instantly. Because of that, information is everything, and sound is the most valuable information you have. There are moments where stopping completely and just listening gives you a massive advantage in a fight. Footsteps, weapon swaps, ADS clicks, healing, push movement, metal stairs, every one of those sound effects tells a story. They're going to tell you where the enemy is, how many there are, whether they're confident, hurt, or if they're panicking. Sometimes by staying still, you let the other players expose themselves. A lot of PMCs sprint around because they're nervous or impatient, and when they do, they hand you their position for free. At that point, you're no longer reacting, you're setting the terms of the fight. This is especially important in PvP hotspots. If you rush around blindly, you're gambling the raid, and if you slow down and listen, you could turn the fight into a controlled engagement where you decide when to shoot. In Tarkov, movement isn't always skill, discipline is. Sometimes the winning play is just standing still, gathering some information, and waiting for the enemy to make their first mistake. Now in this first clip, I hear multiple teams fighting inside the northern villas on Lighthouse. So instead of immediately rushing in, I stop and take a second to gather some information. My goal here isn't to get kills as fast as possible, it's to figure out how many players are still alive before I commit to the fight. I need to know what I'm dealing with, especially because I have a semi-automatic rifle and only one spare mag. Pushing in too early is exactly how you walk into a stacked squad or a third party you weren't ready for. So in this situation, I hold position and let the gunfire and movement inside the villas tell me what's happening. Every shot and every pause in the fighting helps narrow down the picture for me. While I'm waiting on those audio cues, I happen to hear some footsteps coming up behind me. Because I'm not sprinting around or tunneling in on the villas, I catch this immediately. This is going to give me some time to reposition into a hidden angle and get the kill as soon as he walks up completely unaware. This is one of the best real examples I can show you of how listening directly translates into survival. That player wasn't worse mechanically, he just gave away his position and I capitalized on it. Now once that flanking player is back in his stash, the situation changes. I've removed an external threat and now it's time to shift gears. At this point, I decide to push the villa and take on whoever is left alive inside, and this is where movement becomes just as important as patience was before. You'll notice that once I'm actively engaged in this fight, I don't stop moving. I'm constantly shifting my position, changing angles, and relocating between shots. The goal here is to confuse him and deny him any reliable information. He keeps peeking and falling back, so every time he reappears, I want to be somewhere different. That way, all the intel this guy is receiving or thought he had, such as my last position, my timing, my angles, is completely invalidated. We trade a lot of shots throughout this fight, but eventually I isolate him into a tight hallway. From there, it's about patience and timing, holding the angle, staying quiet, and waiting for that final mistake. And when he peeks one last time, that's when I deliver the people's elbow. For this next tip, I really want to encourage you to start thinking outside the box and using angles to your advantage. In this clip, I'm inside New Gas on Customs and I think I hear a player approaching from somewhere outside. Instead of holding a normal doorway or a predictable corner, I decide to set up an ambush from a place most players would never even consider. I climb way up on top of these boxes in the back of the storage room to get a really cheeky elevated angle. Now I want you to think about this from his perspective. If this player walks into New Gas, his brain is immediately overloaded with things that he has to clear. He's going to be checking straight ahead behind the cash registers, then he's going to look left into the grocery shopping area. The third thing he's going to look at is the storage room, and then maybe if he's disciplined, he finally looks up to where I am. If you think about it though, there is no realistic way his eyes can clear all of that before I have opened fire. By putting myself in such a strange, unconventional position, I've already won most of the fight before the first shot is even fired. He's going to be reacting, and I'm prepared. This is one of the biggest advantages you could create in Tarkov, forcing your enemy to process too much information at once. Human reaction time has its limits, and weird angles exploit that perfectly. So don't think in terms of good cover or normal spots. Use Tarkov like a playground. Get vertical, get awkward, get creative. The more uncomfortable your position feels to the enemy, the safer it usually is for you. In this next fight, we're on streets of Tarkov heading toward the Pinewood Hotel for a quest. Before I even reach the playground east of the Expo Extract, I hear some footsteps around one of the nearby buildings. The moment I hear those footsteps, a couple things immediately go through my mind. First thing is AI scavs do not patrol this area, so it can't be that. Second, we just spawned in and I know there's a potential PMC spawn nearby. So at this point, there's really no guesswork left. I'm confident the sound is a player. Because of that knowledge, I slow down and I get into position where I can ambush him. He doesn't push towards me though, which tells me something important, that this guy heard my sprinting too. Now we both know each other exists. Here is where some decision making matters. I know that I can't just sit where I am. I have very little cover from the south, and if another player looks my way, I'm risking an instant head-eye situation. So instead of waiting here and hoping, I need to push to the engagement and take control of the situation. I round the corner with my rifle up, ready to fight, but I notice he's not there, so it must mean he's fallen back to the cover of the nearby building. This means it's my turn to do some room clearing. This building is massive with a ton of angles and rooms, and clearing it all at once would be pretty overwhelming. But here's one of my favorite sayings. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's exactly how I approach this. Notice how I clear this building bit by bit. I peek, take a slice of the equation out, and then I reset. I peek again, clear another angle, and then retreat. I'm slowly shrinking the number of places that this guy could be without ever fully exposing myself. At this point, I consider this an active engagement, so I don't slow play it or stand still. Just like the previous fight at the villas on Lighthouse, movement is going to be key here, and I keep repositioning to stay unpredictable and deny him clean information. Eventually, while I'm clearing, you can hear him make a single step, and that one audio cue gives away absolutely everything. The moment I hear it, I forget every other angle and all my focus goes to where that sound came from. Rifle up, I'm ADS'd. As soon as he appears on my screen, the fight's over. This is Tarkov at its best, using sound, map knowledge, and methodical clearing to win a fight before panic and randomness takes over. Now let's look at an example where I actually lose a fight, because this is where some of the best lessons come from. In this clip, I'm running duos on reserve with a buddy from our community Discord, and we hear a player above us on the underground. We decide to push this guy, and I'm using every strategy we've talked about in this video so far. Methodical clearing, controlled movement, and holding an unpredictable angle like between the railings on these stairs. What I don't know yet is that this guy is working on the quest where you need to kill PMCs while they're flashed. It's a pretty annoying quest, but he's doing it the right way. He's using the flashbang rounds in the shotgun. Right off the rip in this fight, I'm completely blind and effectively useless. At that point, my priority isn't getting a kill, it's staying alive and not blocking my teammate so he can fight. I decide to immediately go prone and get out of the way and buy time for the flash effect to wear off while my teammate engages the enemy. During the chaos, unfortunately, my teammate goes down, but he does something incredibly important. Because he took the fight when he did, he buys me just enough time for the vision to come back. A quick side note here, because this is a huge squad play lesson. Notice how after my teammate dies, he doesn't rage, complain, or ramble. The only thing he says is one piece of valuable information, that guy is wearing a Tagilla mask, and then he goes radio silent. This is perfect comms. If you regularly play in squads, this is critical, so pay attention. If you go down, keep your callouts short and useful. Say where the enemy was, what armor or ammo you saw, or any unique gear, and then stop talking out of respect for your teammates who are still alive. Audio is the most important thing in Tarkov, and your teammates need silence to survive. Now back to the fight. Once my vision clears up, I stand up and decide to push this guy. And let me be transparent with you guys here. I don't usually play in squads, but I do know how frustrating it can be to die early in a raid and then have to sit in your stash for 20 or 30 minutes waiting for all your teammates to extract. I didn't have any quests active in this raid, so out of respect for my teammates' time, I decided to take this fight even knowing it's a very bad matchup. This guy's wearing a Tagilla mask, which means he likely also has class 5 or 6 armor, and I'm only running M855. If you know anything about armor penetration, you'll know this ammo is going to struggle to hurt this guy. If I was solo here, I would probably retreat down the stairs knowing how much of a mismatch this fight is. Anyways, the fight goes exactly how you'd expect. I land some decent shots, but I just can't get to his armor, and eventually he takes me down. And that is the lesson. Sometimes you do everything right, positioning, movement, comms, and you still lose because of gear disparity, ammo choice, or the situation itself. Tarkov isn't fair, and that's okay. The key is understanding why you lost so you can make better decisions in future raids. The final tip I want to leave you guys with is just know the risk and accept the consequences of your decisions. In this last clip, we're going to look at a situation where I take a very real risk and it cost me the entire raid. I've just spawned in on Shoreline and I need to make it over to the scav base for a quest. I've made this sprint hundreds of times and I know exactly how dangerous it is. But sometimes familiarity makes you a little too comfortable. As I'm approaching, I spot a player way off in the distance and I take a few pop shots at him before he disappears behind the hill. Almost immediately after that, a duo behind me opens fire while I'm in the middle of this field and totally exposed. I do manage to return fire and actually take one of them down, but the second player finishes the job and takes me out. And this is why this push is always so sketchy. You're crossing at least 100 meters of open ground with zero cover the entire way. Once you commit to this push, there's no easy reset, no safe fallback, and no margin for error. In hindsight, the better play here is obvious. I should have slowed down, stayed back in the tree line, and taken the time to zoom in and clear the entire area before moving out. If I had done that, I probably would have spotted both teams and avoided running out there like some goon. But that's Tarkov. I knew the risk, I took the risk, and this time I paid the price. And that's really the final lesson of this video, guys. Every fight, win or lose, is a data point. If you survive, try to figure out why. If you die, try to think about the mistakes you made or what you might have missed. That mindset is how you get better at PvP and escape from Tarkov. You live and you learn. And that is your guide for how to survive more fights and escape from Tarkov in 2025. If this guide helped you out, make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Tarkov content. If you want to support the channel even more, consider clicking the join button and becoming a member, or heading over to our brand new merch store and picking up some cool gear. Let me know in the comments if there's a specific guide you'd like me to do next. If you have any more questions or want to find squad mates to run raids with, feel free to join our Discord, the link is in the description. As always, thanks for watching guys, I'm Ghost and I'll see you in the next raid.